guys, welcome back to Through the Screen. I'm Emily.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Brittany.
We hope you've been enjoying our episodes so far and liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. If you missed any of them, head on over to our channel and watch, and if you're not already, subscribe to our channel while you're there. This week, we're back with all new topics, including one super important topic, so we hope you'll join us once again as we join via Skype to bring you conversations through the screen.
Even the best they can't say they've never lost. Hey, it isn't even a question. You can't change what's dead and gone. So grab the lighter, spark the flame, start the fire, watch it blaze. It isn't even a question when I say you're better off. Believe me that you're better off. You're better.
This episode, we will be discussing SeaWorld and other marine parks around the country. We will also be discussing a hopeful story of killer whales in the wild, updates from Taiji Cove, a strawberry skin exfoliant, and recapping the 21st season premiere of Dancing with the Stars. First up, SeaWorld.
So, as most of you guys know, SeaWorld has been a huge topic the past couple of years due to the eye-opening documentary Blackfish, which, if you haven't seen it, basically exposed all of the horrific practices of SeaWorld when it comes to their killer whales especially. And all of us feel really strongly about this topic, so we felt that we definitely had to discuss it here on the show. But we didn't want to focus only on SeaWorld since it isn't the only park with not so great practices. So we will also be talking a little bit about the Mojave Dolphins in Las Vegas, as well as the Miami Seaquarium, rather than just focusing on one park, because again, obviously SeaWorld isn't the only issue, but we will start with that one.
So Blackfish was released in 2013, and since then their earnings at SeaWorld have fell 28%. So it has had a pretty big impact, and most people who have actually sat down and watched it have been really affected by it. One of the most heartbreaking things that I saw in the movie or the documentary was when they would take the babies away from their mothers, and the mothers would just sit in their pen and just cry and cry and cry and cry, most of the time just in a corner of one of their, little pools that they're in. It was really heartbreaking. Holly Marie Combs just recently did an anti-SeaWorld ad for PETA, and it really just sums up that whole feeling. When I was watching that part of Blackfish, it's really the part where I was crying about it, because I'm thinking, what a terrible thing. Or even in the wild, when they first took them from the wild, you can hear the mothers crying, like when they, the fishermen are netting them up, and it's just a really, really, really sad thing to see. Another celebrity that is really trying to get the word out about SeaWorld is Steve-O, who is known from Jackass, and he has done several stunts to bring SeaWorld in the spotlight, one of which he climbed up a highway sign that said SeaWorld and was telling you how to get there, and he wrote "sucks" over it. And I mean, he got fined for that. He has landed himself in jail not too long ago over he climbed up a tower and was doing anti-SeaWorld stuff. So celebrities are getting behind the movement, and people are really, obviously, I mean, the stock market is even showing the down stocks for SeaWorld. So I'm hoping it's a good sign that maybe we can finally get this done, get the whales out of captivity, and go from there.
Yeah, and another thing that was interesting is I think recently it was revealed that the second Finding Nemo movie had changed their storyline, because it originally had to do with an aquarium, I think, and they changed their storyline supposedly because of Blackfish. So I think that's really
amazing.
cool.
It makes me so happy, because obviously a lot of people know Ellen DeGeneres is the voice of Dory, who is really what this one is going to be about, and she is vegan and a huge supporter of animals. So I was so excited to see that that's what they're doing with it, because it brings it to kids, and that is so important. That is so important.
And it's also not the only movie that changed their script. Paper Towns was another movie that had a whole SeaWorld scene. The person who wrote paper towns came out and said, well, I saw Blackfish and it just doesn't seem like that much fun anymore for people to go to SeaWorld and to have that in my movie. So
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
That makes me love him even more than I already do. Great news.
Yeah, and as like you were saying with the getting to kids with the second Finding Nemo, I think it's called Finding Dory, right?
yeah.
Also on that, Harry Styles is also kind of speaking out for young people at one of his shows. He asked the audience, does anyone here like dolphins? And people started screaming, and he said, then don't go to SeaWorld. And I just think that was just awesome. I was like, yes.
One of the things I wanted to bring up was the fact that Blackfish is primarily about one orca whale. His name is Tilikum, also known as Tilly. He was born December 1981, and he was taken from British Columbia. He formerly lived in Sealand of the Pacific in South Ocean Bay, British Columbia. He has sighted 21 calves, with 11 still alive. Almost all of those are in captivity. All of his whole family is in captivity. And he's pretty much, if you watch Blackfish, he pretty much becomes their sperm donor. That's basically...
And it's just so disgusting. Like, honestly, when I watched Blackfish, like, I was so disgusted by that. I couldn't even believe that they did that. And I still can't believe they're still doing that. It's disgusting. You people are disgusting. I don't care. It's disgusting.
SeaWorld has come out and said to many organizations, like Tommy Lee, for example, wrote a letter to SeaWorld stating that you say that trainers don't have any, direct contact with Tilikum, but yet they are getting in pools and literally ejaculating him in a sense to get sperm out of him to impregnate these other orca whales and SeaWorld to keep their populations up. So that they don't have to go out and kill and take these babies anymore, because naturally the world is watching them. And we know that they did this in the 70s and the 80s, and that's how they got all these orcas in the park to begin with. So Tilly is the main focus because he has killed 3 people in captivity. The first was in Sealand of the Pacific. It was a 20-year-old biology student. She fell in the pool, and he was in the pool with 2 other orcas that were pregnant at the time. That was unknown to Sealand of the Pacific, and they pretty much ganged up on this girl. They dragged her under. All 3 orcas attacked her, so it wasn't just Tilly who got blamed for this. But she ended up drowning and dying. The second was a man in 1999. He, after Tilly was moved from Sealand of the Pacific, he was sent to SeaWorld Orlando in 1992. And in 1999, he was a man that was found in his pool that morning when they came in. They believe the man had hid in the park and stayed in the park until everybody left and closed down, and then ventured into Tilly's captivity area, and somehow managed to get in the pool. Maybe he thought he could swim around with the orca. I'm not 100% sure what was going through his mind at the time, or maybe
Probably on drugs or drunk.
Yeah, something like that. And well, make a long story short, he was found in the pool with numerous wounds, contusions, abrasions covering his body. And he, again, died from drowning. The third death is probably the most shocking. It is the most known, and it is probably the main reason why Blackfish was made. Actually, it is the main reason why Blackfish was made. A trainer named Dawn Branshaw, she was 40 years old, and she worked at SeaWorld. She was a veteran trainer. She'd been at SeaWorld for years. She knew, the ins and outs with the orcas. She was in the middle of a show with Tilly, and she bent down, and for some reason, Tilly attacked her. He brought her under the water by her arm, and she tried to fight. She tried to keep getting up and breathing and getting air. The SeaWorld employees were throwing things to her, trying to get her out of the pool, but Tilly wasn't letting her go. She too eventually drowned. The reason why Blackfish was made was because the director of Blackfish, we will show the name somewhere around here because it's a little hard to pronounce and we don't want to pronounce it wrong. Went and saw that it was said that from SeaWorld that the reason why Dawn was killed was because she was wearing a ponytail. And Tilly took the ponytail as some sort of like, hair mane from like a sea lion or something like that and attacked her.
Which is a crock.
It is crock because it's blatantly on video because this happened during the middle of a show. There were people watching all over the place. They filmed it. She is taken by her arm into the pool. She is not. He did not go after her hair. It was her arm. So many people found out after the fact when they watched Blackfish that SeaWorld lied about that. Her family has not pressed charges against SeaWorld. They have not come out and said anything really about the treatment at SeaWorld, anything like that, because they believe that Dawn loves SeaWorld so much that they don't think that is what she would want. But her widower has looked into private investigating into the matter. Again, he's never taking any legal action, but he does have like a private investigation going against SeaWorld. On August 23rd, 2010, the park was fined $75,000 by OSHA for 3 safety violations, 2 directly related to Branshaw's death. SeaWorld issued a statement that called OSHA's findings unfounded. Although Branshaw's widower did hire the Chicago law firm, he has never taken any action against SeaWorld. Tilly returned to performing on March 30th, 2011. High-pressure hoses are used to massage him rather than hands, and removable guardrails have also begun to be used on the platforms. There are plans to install false bottom floors that can lift trainers and whales out of the pools in under a minute. He has been paired with his grandson, Trura, and can often be seen performing alongside him during the finale of the new One Ocean Orca show. So, again, he's still in captivity. He's still in SeaWorld Orlando, and he's still being used for performances, even though he has killed 3 people. Even though he is essentially a sperm bank. That's pretty much what he is. That's why he's kept there. There's just no need for this. There's no need for any of it. And I guarantee if you go and you watch Blackfish and you see how this orca is being treated, you will be just completely disgusted by it.
It shows how selfish people are because, first of all, there are people who have watched Blackfish and don't care. And if people like that, they really are selfish. But like the people of SeaWorld, they're selfish and greedy because we are literally using, in Tilly's case, he has been in captivity almost his entire life. Ever since he was a baby, he's been moved around, used like a sperm bank, He does not have enough room to move around. He is in a tiny pool, and he's literally treated like an object other than a living, breathing, intelligent animal.
Right.
And again, just picture, this is how I always put it, imagine living your whole life in a closet. Imagine having to do tricks to get food. Imagine having somebody come along and literally ejac you off and take your sperm. It is just disgusting to think about. Why do we do this to these animals? If you heard this on the news and it was people, we would be sitting here what is wrong with society? Judging, saying all this stuff. And yet, because it's animals, we don't do it. We think it's okay. We have this right.
Yeah, one of the things from the documentary that kind of stuck with me the most was, I think it was a reporter from some show that said this. She said something along the lines of, if you had to spend your entire life in a bathtub, I think you'd go a little psychotic too.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite lines from the documentary because it really kind of puts it into perspective. And some of the facts on this is that the average life expectancy of killer whales in the wild is an average of 30 and up to 60 years for males and an average of 50 up to 100 years for females. And the whales at SeaWorld rarely even approach this and usually die in their teens. And at SeaWorld, killer whales are fed frozen fish with unnatural antibiotics, usually to treat some kind of condition or illness that they have from being at SeaWorld. The males, as Charlotte said, are forced to provide sperm to inseminate females, and they become frustrated and they act out by banging their heads against concrete walls. Some orcas have died from this, from being so frustrated. It breaks their teeth from biting these bars and banging their heads against the wall. And they even attack other whales and, as we've seen, even trainers. And as Brittany said, mothers and calves are also separated. So the things that they do, it's just absolutely horrible, and it's heartbreaking, and it's a shame that more people aren't concerned about this and more people don't care about this. But it's good to see that it is being shown and that their stock and everything is going down. So, I mean, that's a good indicator, I guess. So basically, SeaWorld's response to Blackfish and to all of this backlash from Blackfish is that they've started a campaign called Get the Facts, and it is a bunch of commercials that they've released, and I haven't seen them recently, but I remember they used to be on all the time. I used to see them so often, and I even saw them on Nickelodeon, which is what bothered me the most.
I saw them the most on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I saw it non-stop on Nickelodeon, and it's so annoying because they're targeting the children.
They are. They want them to go to their parents. I want to go to SeaWorld. That's what they want. And, you know, they try so hard, like, we don't take our whales from the wild, you know, they live as long as they do in the wild. They say all of these things. And at the end of the commercial, it says to go to askseaworld.com. And it's just so frustrating. And the thing that bothers me the most in the commercial is they say, we don't take our whales from the wild, and we haven't in 35 years. That means that you have at some point. Just because you can't say you don't take them if you have.
Take them from the wild now doesn't mean what you're doing is right. You're jacking off a whale, you know.
That's why you don't take them from the wild.
That's just as bad, and you're still separating, and that's what they said. We care about the mother-calf bond. No, you don't, because the picture that you use for that mother and their calf, they're not even together. So, nice try.
Right, and
crap.
And most likely, and they say, and they're supposedly trainers, but I think they're probably actors, right? So it's just really frustrating, and I haven't seen them lately, but I know they were really going hard trying to push that in people's heads.
I used to see them because I'm a huge weather nerd too, and I used to watch the Weather Channel all the time, and I used to see them on the Weather Channel, and it used to make me mad. And one of the stories actually I recently posted on the internet was from the Weather Channel, and they put like this nice huge thing about orcas. I was so happy to see the story, and I was like excited, and then I open it up and there's SeaWorld pictures at the bottom, and I was just totally let down by that Weather Channel. I just wanted to put that out there. Even though I love you guys, I was let down by that.
Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to bring up was that in the wild, killer whales swim as far as 100 miles every day. But in parks, they swim in circles in a concrete tank. And in fact, in all of SeaWorld's parks, the parking lot is bigger than the space that they give the killer whales to live.
Like way bigger.
Right.
Way bigger.
So there's a picture somewhere on the screen, and the part outlined in yellow is the parking lot. And the little tiny blue circle, which you may not even be able to see depending on how big your screen is the killer whale pool. And that's multiple killer whales living in that tiny space. And if you look at aerial views of other SeaWorld parks, the ratio is generally the same. It just goes to show that they care more about the people that are bringing them profit than they do about the whales. And these people get to go home every night. The park guests, the trainers, everybody, they go home at night to their families, and the whales and the dolphins are stuck in these tiny pools 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And like Charlotte said, you know, it's the equivalent of us living in a closet or a bathtub for our entire lives. And that's the thing that I don't understand, is that SeaWorld supporters can talk all day long about, oh, well, they're actually treated really well. You know, well, whether or not they are treated well, which research says that they're not, but even if they are, they shouldn't be there in the first place. It's not where they were meant to be born, and it's not where they belong.
And most people don't know that SeaWorld Orlando or SeaWorld San Antonio, those actually weren't the second parks. Like, there was actually another park called SeaWorld Ohio that I was, like, really shocked to discover when I started doing research. I'm like, SeaWorld Ohio? Like, who knew? You know what I mean? Like, who knew that?
No, I live in Indiana, and I had no idea. No idea.
And it opened in 1970. It was the second park in the chain after San Diego. And it opened in Guaja Lake Park in Aurora, Ohio. And the reason why the park stayed open for 30 years was open until 2000.
No way.
Yeah, but it had become other parks in the sense it was still SeaWorld. SeaWorld still owned it, but it had been gone by other names. It's still there. It's still there, believe it or not, Brittany. And it is now called Wildwater Kingdom. So it's definitely still there's it. So if you live in Ohio or or have ever been to this park called Wildwater Kingdom, you have actually been to a SeaWorld park because technically it was.
That's crazy.
Park originally.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean I never knew.
I never knew. We went to Aurora a million times. We go to Kings Island almost every year, even growing up. So yeah. I've been there, like, when the park was still open. Crazy.
And part of the reason why they obviously had to close was because they could only run from, March till,
right.
October because of our weather. Naturally, me and Brittany talked about how we were buried in snow all the time. So that was another thing that threw me off. I'm like, how could they have this park in Ohio in this weather? Now I'm thinking, my God, these poor orcas probably froze in these pools.
Or they move them every year, which is even just as stressful on them.
I can't even, I don't even know how they would go about that. But that's part of the reason why it closed was because of the climate issues. And and they actually merged with other companies. Actually, one of them was, I believe, Great Escape or Six Flags. Some type of park like that, and they merged.
There used to be a Six Flags, but I don't think there is one there anymore. I know Kings Island is still there.
They merged together and sort of fed off each other. That's why there was no rides or anything like that in the actual SeaWorld Ohio, because they were partnered with Six Flags, so they couldn't build rides because Six Flags had the rides essentially. You know what I mean? So they kind of worked off each other, and when one closed, it kind of diminished the other. So
interesting.
Yeah, and other
learning
people
new things today.
Yeah, and like I said, other people bought them up, and now they're Wildwater Kingdom. So there's little information that I didn't even know.
Yeah. And speaking to the weather issues that Charlotte was just talking about, in 1990, the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas started to display captive dolphins, based on this idea by Steve Wynn to basically have the luxury of seeing dolphins in his backyard. And 2 wild dolphins still reside at the Mirage today, Lightning and Duchess. The last dolphin that died at the Mirage was just short of his 2nd birthday, and the cause of death was fungal tracheitis and pneumonia. And after his death, the permit to import dolphins from the Bahamas was blocked. So SeaWorld stepped in and placed 3 more dolphins in the facility for breeding. And 24 years later, dolphins are still performing in the desert with no shade, infected with the pox virus, with limited space, and being forced to breed. And the Animal Welfare Act regulations clearly state that marine mammals kept outdoors must have protection from weather and direct sunlight. The temperatures in Las Vegas, if you didn't know, often reach up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius in the summer. And the trainers have been seen applying sunscreen to dolphins, but they still are not protected. And meanwhile, the guests and the trainers have shade provided all around the pools. It's just this pool that's in direct sunlight. So
which is just ridiculous. Which I don't want them there anyway.
Right.
But how hard would it be to give them some shade, for one thing? And for another thing, and a tribute to the heat of it, Vegas heat is dry. Over here, where Charlotte and I are from, we get humidity, so at least the air is kind of moist. No, Vegas heat is dry desert heat that these poor dolphins are just out in all the time, and it's just appalling. It's appalling.
Yeah. And there have been a lot of protests to free the Mojave Desert dolphins, and there are still multiple petitions that you can sign, which we have linked in the description. And another one that I just wanted to mention is the Miami Seaquarium in Florida. And a very sad orca named Lolita has been living in the tiny tank for 35 years. Lolita was taken along with 10 other family members over 3 decades ago off the coast of Washington State. In 1970, she arrived in Miami, purchased for only $6,000. And her companion Hugo died of an apparent suicide by smashing his head against the wall in 1980, leaving her alone and the only survivor of the 58 kidnapped whales from Puget Sound. And the tank that Lolita calls home doesn't even meet, but the tank is supposed to be 48 feet wide in either direction and a straight line of travel across the middle. Lolita's tank is 35 feet wide and has a concrete island in the center. So to go all the way to the end, she has to swim around this concrete island, and it is only 20 feet at its deepest point. The Miami Seaquarium has been promising a larger tank for Lolita since 1978 and have not delivered that. But one landmark decision that could possibly mean a good opportunity for Lolita is that in February, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, fisheries announced that it would extend the endangered species listing for wild southern resident orcas to include those in captivity. So, that could possibly be a good thing for Lolita in the future. But we just wanted to bring up all of these places to let you know that SeaWorld isn't the only park with not so great practices. Obviously, these mammals should not even be used for entertainment in the first place, but there are multiple parks in the United States, outside of the United States, that keep these animals in horrible conditions for entertainment. So it's horrible.
Besides the news of all Blue Cove days, we haven't seen any recent news about Taji, so we just would like to remind everyone that Sea Shepherd and the Dolphin Project both offer live streams straight from Taji. The brave volunteers show you exactly what's happening on the ground in Japan, and especially on a Red Cove day. The streams are super heartbreaking, but also important, so we will link both sites down below.
Mm-hmm. And as Charlotte said, we've seen all Blue Cove days, so the 11th through the 17th were all Blue Cove days, so we're hoping for many more this season.
This week for our uplifting story, we wanted to share with you the story of a calf that has recently been spotted. This calf is spotted in the pod that Lolita, who is currently in the Miami Seaquarium, that she was stolen from, along with an entire generation of babies, was stolen from this pod. They're called the Southern Residents. It's 3 different pods, but this specific one is the L pod. And in the 60s and 70s, they pretty much had all of their calves taken away. So right now they are considered an endangered species because from 2013 to 2014, there were no surviving babies in these pods. But now, since December, along with the one that has recently been spotted with its mom in the L pod, there have been 5 babies. So it's looking really great. They're repopulating themselves, and it's giving us some hope for wild whales.
So for this week's product of the week, we decided to do a hand and foot exfoliant using 3 simple ingredients. All you need is about 8 to 10 strawberries, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And I personally use sea salt because I felt that the thicker grains would exfoliate better than regular salt. So basically you just mash all of the ingredients together in a bowl and it creates this mixture. And you just apply it to your feet or hands, whatever you feel needs smoothing, and then just rinse it off. So what did we think about this one?
I actually liked this one for the feet. I wasn't a fan of the hands, but I would definitely do it again for the feet.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the texture of it, if that makes sense. I use the pink Himalayan salt because, like Emily said, like it's just bigger grain and it's supposed to be super good for your skin and body. But I don't think I'll do this one again. I didn't like the texture of it for some reason. I don't know. It was just too gooey for me, and I don't know. I wasn't a fan, but it does work. It does do what it's supposed to do. It does exfoliate and makes your hands and feet soft.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with olive oil.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, this one was right there neck and neck with the banana face mask as far as texture.
Agree.
It was not good in the texture part. It's very, very messy, so you kind of have to do it in like the shower. But yeah, I agree. It did exfoliate well because I did it on my feet and hands, and I felt that it worked well for both. I don't know if I would do it again, but it was something interesting to try.
Well, that I would actually do it again if you guys were.
I know, that's a first.
I feel like there's just less messy ways to exfoliate, but I mean,
True.
If you want to do, I'd definitely say try it because you might not be so worried about that. But yeah, the texture is kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
But it works. It does work.
Yeah. So let us know what you think and if you have any other ideas of things for us to try.
So this week for our entertainment, we decided that we were going to watch this season of Dancing with the Stars. It's the 21st season, and as many of you know, if you follow me at all on any social media, my personal social media, I am huge in dancing, so it's one of my passions. So I love this show. I've watched it for years. I've been I vote every week. I'm a geek, so so me. So what do you guys think?
I think this year there aren't as many people that I know as usual. There are a few people that I'm familiar with, Paula Deen, Alexa Vega, Carlos Pena, Bindi Irwin, things like that. But there are some in there that I've never heard of, but I'm interested to see how this season's gonna go. So.
I read that the ratings for the premiere were the highest that they've ever been, which is really impressive for a show that's gone on so long. I've never watched it until this week. I just never, because dancing isn't really my thing. My thing's more of singing stuff. So, but I really enjoyed it. I think that my favorite is probably Nick Carter, just because I'm a 90s girl, and my 90s girl heart is all excited to see how far he'll go, and I think he's doing really well. So I'm excited to watch this season.
And he's also paired with Sharna Burgess, who is a great choreographer and a great pro partner to have. She's made it to the end several times. She's never won, but she has made it to the end several times, and I definitely think they have what it takes to go all the way and to make it to the end and to the finals. There are a few that I actually feel that Tamar Braxton, Bindi Irwin, Nick Carter, Alexa Vega, Carlos Pena Vega, and Alec, who I can't pronounce his last name, but
Scarlatos.
He was the one who was on the train in France and pretty much prevented a terrorist attack, and that's what made him famous and got him on the show. And he is a very good dancer, and obviously with that one story alone, it definitely gives him points.
He's really good. I think he's definitely one of the contenders as well. I also like Alexa and Carlos Pena Vega. Bindi Irwin also is very good. I have my reservations about her, but
I know, but we can't judge her for that.
Right. But, she's still a good dancer. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I love Alexa Vega, too, because also childhood.
Yeah.
Spy Kids.
Me and Brittany had, some 90s fantasies come out, Alexa Pena Vega. But, yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a good season. Of course, there were some down people, some people that definitely showed that they didn't do their work. They didn't.
There's always people like that, though.
Or they just can't dance like me.
True. And I won't badmouth those people, but I will say that I definitely think that Paula Deen is probably going to be the one that I feel is going to go home this week, especially after what she said. That comment definitely did not make her look good in public eye at all. So if that's who I'm going to guess is going to go home, that's going to be who I say. But again, I'm not going to badmouth people. I'm just going to state who I think is going to go home.
I think maybe Paula Deen. Also the Housewives girl. I don't know. Because I know she got lower scores, and I don't know how big of a following she has, but she could be another one. Gary Busey, another one. But
I'm
we'll have to
thinking,
see.
my guess is probably Paula Deen too. I think that, she's already controversial for herself, and then to add more to that, and her dancing was obviously not up to, where Nick Carter and his partner were, so my guess is going to be Paula Deen.
Yeah.
And her partner, Luke Van Amstel, he's a good dancer, but I feel like his attitude kind of is why he doesn't make it very far in every season. He's almost always one of the first choreographers to go. And that's not because he's a bad choreographer, because he's a really good choreographer. I just feel like his attitude and the partners he always tends to be partnered with just don't always work out.
So we'll be following it every week. So and we'll obviously let you know what did get sent home and what's happening. So stay tuned.
And next week it will be a two-parter. So it's on Monday and Tuesday nights. So and I believe there's 2 eliminations next week. I'm not sure. We'll keep you updated.
Exciting.
So stay tuned for our updates on that.
This week, our song of the week is Cruel by the Veronicas. The Veronicas consists of identical twins, Lisa and Jessica, from Brisbane, Australia. I love this song because it's super fun. I think it's super relatable for almost any female out there. And the music video is just really awesome and hilarious, and I love it. So what do you guys think?
I really like it. This was the first time that I listened to it when we listened to it for the show. And it was really catchy. I liked it a lot. And I also love the music video. I think it's really creative. It's a story of, I think they kidnapped this guy, right? And they had him in their trunk. And I thought it was really funny. And they're gorgeous. So, I don't know. I really loved it.
For me, I was like, when I watched the music video, I said to Brittany, I was like, is this a play on like Thelma and Louise? It reminded me of a little bit, especially at the end. I really liked the video. Again, this was the first time I listened to it too for the show. But yeah, I would definitely download it and listen to it again. It would be on a playlist. I actually am working on a playlist right now. I might add it too.
Well, good, because other than their great music, which, I have the whole, their whole entire new album, and I love every song on it. So if you haven't listened, you definitely should. But I also love the Veronicas because they are doing so much for animals, and they're getting really involved in Sea Shepherd. So you definitely need to check them out, and we're going to link the video below so you can check out the cool video because it's really fun. But also check out their album because they have a lot of really, really good songs that I think that you all will really like.
Finally, just as a reminder, we still have our Breast Cancer Research Foundation fundraiser going in honor of Shannon Doherty. You have 1 week left to get your donations in, and again, if you donate $5 or more, we will send you a special glow-in-the-dark bracelet that says Fight Like a Badass on one side and Shando Army on the other. We've just reached our halfway point, so we'd really appreciate your support in getting us to our goal. So please get your donations in by the 25th, and the link will of course be posted below. We also wanted to remind you about the Thompson Family Charitable Foundation fundraiser, which is matching donations to the Cove Guardians dollar for dollar up to $20,000, going on until October 1st. The link to that will also be down below, so please consider donating to one or both of these great causes.
Okay guys, that's our show. We hope you enjoyed this installment of Through the Screen. If you did, be sure to like down below and subscribe to our channel. We also appreciate any feedback you may have. We post new videos each week, and we'd love for you all to join in us and tell your friends. Next week, we will be having a special Southern-inspired reunion episode in honor of the weekend we met. Until then, thanks for watching, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
Bye.